Hi, so today I'm going to be looking at more people who had a gut feeling. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. I'm very close to my best friend, and one day while on my bus home from school, she called me frantically telling me to get off. She said she imagined my bus having some kind of freak accident. I thought it was so strange, but quickly boarded the next bus anyway. Turns out I had to wait due to another bus that had just had an accident. It was the one I was just on. I'm not a believer in these things, but this incident really shook me. Thank gosh for the friend. Oh my gosh, this friend is a keeper. For life, okay? Keep this friend around, okay? If you're around this friend, you'll always be safe. Wow, that's crazy. I guess she must have had like a dream or something. Or did she just have a feeling? She was like, oh, my friend's on this bus. Gotta call her now. How does that work? That's actually like a superpower. My nan once had a dream about a woman standing at the end of her bed telling her to move my mum and aunt out of the room. She had the dream for 3 nights before she finally told them. The next night, the roof over the bedroom collapsed and a massive beam dropped right across the beds. When she described the messenger to my papa, it turned out the woman was his mother who died when he was young. How does he know that it was his mother? Like, how do people know just from a description? Like, what? Dark hair, big eyes, small lips, tiny nose. How do they know, you know? What? How does that work? Once I got a really weird feeling out of nowhere that I should quit my job. I wasn't sure why, but the feeling was so strong that I just did it. Get this, the place I was working at burned down a few days later. A few people got hurt, but luckily no one died. I feel like it sucks because you know there's something wrong, so you can save yourself, but then you don't know if it's accurate enough to tell other people because you don't know if it's gonna happen, but it's just a feeling, so you can only save yourself, so you can only blame yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you tell other people, and what if it doesn't happen? And they quit their jobs and they'll lose their jobs kind of thing, you know? It's sad that you can't save other people. I guess you can, but like you have no thing to go off of, you know? You can't be like, well, I had a thought, you know, well, I had a gut feeling that this was gonna happen. But it turned out wrong. One night, I glanced at the ceramic owl that was on the edge of one of my shelves, and I remember thinking if an earthquake happened, this would fall off and break. That night, I was woken up by a violent 6.0 earthquake with my house right in the disaster zone. I checked and the owl had fallen off of the shelf, just as I had thought about hours earlier. Oh, but they didn't do anything. They had a gut feeling, but they were like, if there was an earthquake, this owl would fall. But you know what? I'm gonna go to sleep anyways. Well, most of the gut feeling stories would be like, I had a gut feeling, so I did something about it. This one was just like, I had a gut feeling. Cool. I was finishing my chores while my brother was at home with me and my mum was down the street. I put a load of clothes in the dryer and was about to go out when something in my head told me, tell your brother the dryer is on. It'd been making a weird noise for weeks and hadn't been fixed yet, but I didn't tell anyone it was on. I left and 20 minutes later got a frantic call that my brother just barely made it out of the house with all of our pets. The house was full of black smoke and extinguisher powder. Don't ignore your gut. They ignored their gut. They were like, I should tell my brother. Never mind. Oh my goodness, yes. Now this person is going to listen to the gut every single time now. This is why you should never ignore your gut feeling. Wow, they would have regretted it so bad if something did happen to their brother and their pets. Thank gosh everyone was okay. In 2013, I dreamt I had a stroke and was desperately trying to explain to my husband what was happening. 2 years later, I woke up in the middle of the night on my couch with my husband and roommate looking at me, concerned. I sat up, my left side was in full paralysis, and I tried to tell my husband to call 911 because I was having a stroke. He couldn't understand me, but thankfully he'd already called because while I was unconscious, I had a seizure. It turns out I had a brain aneurysm rupture and only minutes to get to the hospital and in surgery. The whole thing was so disturbing. They had a dream like years before. That's freaking scary because what if they're just thinking about it like every day because they feel it, you know? And then years after, then it happens. I'll be paranoid every day. One night during my high school years, I was getting ready for bed. My dog was outside lying on the patio, and when I said goodnight to her and she looked at me, I just knew she was going to die. I told my parents that something was wrong and they just laughed. The next morning I got up and stood at the garage door and just cried. I couldn't open the door because I knew she would be lying there. Sure enough, I found her dead. Oh my gosh, that's so sad. I can't. It's just like they know when they're going to go. Every single time it's a sad story about a dog, I just get teary. I'm weak. I used to spend the summer at my grandma's house, and for some strange reason, she always keeps her door open. One day my grandmother, sister and I were chilling in the living room when something told me to look up. The minute I looked up, I saw a toddler walking down the street alone. I yelled that there was a baby outside and he was walking towards the interstate. My uncle dashed outside and grabbed the child before he could make it. When we brought the child back to his parents, they had no idea he wasn't even in the house. If I hadn't looked up in time, that child could have been kidnapped. Oh, thank gosh for their instincts, honestly. Wow. And how does a baby just randomly get outside, honestly? What are the parents doing? Please, watch your kids. Seriously, even for a split second when you don't watch your kid, you don't know what's gonna happen. Kids are just fast, okay? I don't know. About a year ago, I dropped out of college and lost my job. Naturally, I was depressed, so I spent a lot of time at a semi-private beach near my house. One day, a group of people showed up and a guy kept flirting with me. Usually, I don't mind this, but he gave me the creeps. So mid-conversation, he was talking at me more than talking to me. I got out of the water and left. The following day, I saw him on the news. He had kidnapped a man, forced him to drive to the ATM and withdraw as much as he could, then made him drive home to his wife and kids where he robbed them too. Luckily she was like, not this man, nah. Oh, that's so scary. Oh my gosh. It's scarier because this could happen to anyone. Like, you know, you don't think if someone's like interested in you, they want to do bad things to you. I mean, that's a different story. I mean, like they want to harm you or something. Oh, this is scary. This is why I don't leave the house. There's too many things going on. When I was a baby, the smoke alarm went off in my house when everyone but my dad was asleep. He thought it was just the battery since there was obviously no fire, so he replaced the battery and headed to bed. However, it went off again. So thinking it was a malfunction, he just took it apart and was going to do with it in the morning. He went to lay down and go to sleep, but there was a nagging voice in the back of his head telling him not to ignore the alarm. So he begrudgingly got up and called the fire department, asking them just to send a car to come check it out. Being a small town with a big fire department and a large budget, they sent 3 engines. It turns out there was a carbon monoxide leak, and if my dad had fallen back to sleep, it is likely we all would have died of carbon monoxide poisoning. That little voice in his head, intuition or whatever it was, saved our lives. Whoa. Wow. I feel like I would have these little thoughts as well, but like mostly I'll just be like, oh my gosh, but what if this happens because I don't do this? What if? You know, sometimes I always like to put things off and not do it, but then I'm like, what if, you know, what if? These kind of stories kind of make me a little bit more paranoid. When I was 17, my boyfriend would call me every day when he got out of class. I mean, every single day like clockwork. One day I came home, had an uneasy feeling, and felt the need to call him first. I wasn't sure if he'd answer since he was usually in school at that time, but I kept calling and crying hysterically. I didn't hear from him until way later that night because it turned out he had a seizure and was in the hospital. It was the strangest thing ever. So I guess it was like a routine thing, and they were just like, oh no, he didn't call. I know he didn't forget because he does this every single day, so something must have happened. One night at about 4 AM, I got the oddest feeling to go make sure all the downstairs windows and doors were locked. I double checked and 2 of them were unlocked. About an hour later, something slammed against the front door, and when that didn't work, tried to push open the windows. I never found out what it was, but thank goodness I had the overwhelming feeling. Lock all your doors, lock all your windows. Before you sleep, just make sure everything's locked. Better to be safe than sorry. Don't be lazy. I dreamt I was in a car crash. In the dream, a red car went through a stoplight and hit my car so hard that I hit someone else, who hit the guy next to him and made a crash into a pole. A week later, I was sitting at a red light when it turned green. My gut told me to wait and not go. Suddenly, a red car came zooming from the intersection, ran the red light, hit the car next to me and hit the car next to him, running him straight into a pole. Whoa! This is why even when it's green, you should still look both ways when you're driving, you know, because you just don't know who's gonna run the red light. Like I said in the last video, I was traveling in Italy when I suddenly woke up at 2 a.m. worrying that my sister back in California was in danger. I frantically called her and my parents. She didn't pick up because she later told me that right when I called, she was getting her oil changed. The man who had assaulted and stalked her the year before pulled into the very same parking lot. She ran into another building and waited until he left. We're almost certain he did this on purpose to intimidate and frighten her. But I mean, all of this happened at the same time I was having this premonition and I felt it on the other side of the world. I believe there's like a connection. Like you and your family, there's a connection. I feel like when someone's in danger or like when something happens, you feel it too. Whew. I was 30 weeks into my pregnancy and just felt like something wasn't right. I couldn't stop crying. He wasn't moving enough. I was in a complete panicked state. I remember thinking something awful is happening. My stomach was in knots. When we got in to see the doctor, my son's heart rate was at 200 BPM and was going into congestive heart failure. His heart was beating so fast it wasn't pumping, and all the fluid was backing up into his body. He was born early with a 50% chance of survival. He is 4 now and completely healthy and normal. They told me at the hospital if I waited much longer, he wouldn't have made it. Thank God for mommy instincts. How does that happen though? Like you're pregnant and then the baby inside you is just having complications? Like how do you even know that? Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoy. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys next time.